All right, is the government going to remain shut down this week? Are we close to getting an agreement and getting government back to work so that we can go on with our business? There's not a lot of news this week. That is front and center over everything else. No news on Monday. Tuesday, we have a 3-year Treasury note auction, consumer credit change, so basically an assessment on consumer credit. 10-year Treasury auction on Wednesday. We'll get the Fed releasing the minutes from their last Fed meeting on Wednesday as well. That might move the market a little bit in the sense that what the prognosis is for the future rate cuts, we might get some information there. Thursday, actually, we will not get continuing jobless claims and initial jobless claims unless the government goes back to work. Fed Chair Powell will speak. I have no idea who he's speaking to, but every time he's like E.F. Hutton, when Fed Chair Powell speaks, people listen, and then President Trump usually comes in and says, "You're stupid." But we'll see what happens there. And then Friday, University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index comes out. So not a lot of news this week. Really, the big news is going to be the government shutdown. Let's take a look at rates and see where they're at. All right, mortgage rates. You know what? Last week and this week, really no change. We start the week conventional between 6.3, 6.25 on jumbo. So really getting close to that 6% range, but not a lot of movement from the previous week. VA rates were still right around 6% at 6.05. I believe last week we started the week at a 6.04, maybe 6.05. So really no change. Don't expect a lot of change this week, even if the government goes back to work. Stock market will take off, I would imagine. Not a lot of movement in interest rates. What we need for interest rates to move is economic reports, or are economic reports, and there aren't really any big ones next week, certainly with the government shutdown in effect. All right, have a great week. We'll talk to you later. Aloha.